What is going on, guys and girls? LevelUp here at OnPointTactical, and today I want to address some of the controversies and different questions that a lot of the community has. I've been going through the Battlelog forums and finding several different questions and controversies that are related to each other on a lot of different posts. And the first being Second Assault and its release on PC, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360. Well, I've been able to piece together that from what information I know, it is confirmed to be released in February for the public release. So for us premium users, I honestly would not be surprised to see it in the next 7 days or so. If we don't see it in the next 7 days, then that would mean that it is not a February release for most of the community. It is only for the premium community, I guess I should say the public community. It would not be out, it would only be for the premium users. And I'm fine with that. I'm a little bit confused about why it hasn't been released at this point. And DICE's natural excuse is that it would take more development time, but I don't quite believe that because those maps have been built and running fine. I mean, it's Battlefield 4, they're not running pristine, but it's running within the acceptance that we have on Xbox One and has been for quite some time now, so I'm not quite sure what the hang-up was in the development process, but nonetheless, I would expect it very, very, very shortly. Another big thing is a controversy about China Rising and why there was no Levolution events. I'm not sure why we're still talking about this, but to address it, in short, there was Levolution originally intended for China Rising, and if you go through the game files on a PC, you can find sounds and visual files that mimic a sandstorm on Silk Road, a snowstorm on the mountain map, and I believe it is a storm that comes in on Dragon Pass and floods the river. I think that would be pretty much the only viable option for Levolution on that map. And I don't think we have that. That was on Altai Ranges, the snowstorm, and I don't think that we have anything confirmed for Guilin Peaks. However, with that being said, I don't know that it's necessarily a bad thing that there's no Levolution. Here's the controversy present with the entire idea of Levolution, and I am on the side sort of against Levolution. Levolution is a great visual idea. It brings great intent whenever we're talking about TV ads. It definitely reels people in at that point to see the massive skyscraper falling down or an entire map flooding, so that you can use the boats in the little channels and take people out on the miniguns. But beyond that, I think that Levolution's use is very limited with what that they have in the game. If they had done events similar to the skyscraper in Siege of Shanghai on all the maps, then it would be a much more usable option. But for most of us, it's just that annoying mechanic that the noobs go and exploit because it's cool, because it's on TV. I have to do that myself. So I think Levolution is abused to the point where it's almost unnecessary. I actually enjoy the fact that there's no Levolution on the China Rising maps because you get consistent gameplay throughout, and even if it's only for this DLC, I'm totally fine with that. But I think having some maps with really, really, really consistent gameplay on Conquest is something that we all needed, whether we knew it or not. Now, I was looking at Izzy Gone Crazy HD Gaming. I can't remember the exact name of his channel, but I play with him on PlayStation 4, and I watched a couple of his videos, and he brought up a very interesting concept that I'm going to sort of give my opinion on. He brought up the idea of a flight certification, or a flight license rather, in Battlefield 4. And not to try to sound like I'm contradicting you, but I think that idea is good to a certain extent. Like, yes, I get your intention. It's to get the noob pilots out of the aircraft from, to stop running into stuff and to stop bailing out over objectives. But at that same time, then that means that you're only addressing half of the problem. You're making them slightly better at flying, yes, with your obstacle course that you mentioned. However, the noobs that are going to waste it and parachute out over objectives are still going to do so. And a majority of the community even if they're good pilots, would ignore this, especially if it was any length. If it was like over 3 minutes long, pretty much most of the community, I speculate, would entirely ignore it. And then at that point, you would be left with all of the choppers in your base unless the elitists or the jet pilot dedicated players, so to speak, took over and then totally destroyed the map. It is almost key to the balancing of the map that we have tards flying helicopters. I know that that sounds kind of rude, but if we don't have noobs and we don't have tards in the helicopters, then that means that only the elite pilots are getting in. And at that point, it is going to be all about air warfare, and that's not necessarily what we need this game to be about. Because even though it would be aircraft versus aircraft, and that happens all the time, suddenly all of the infantry units would be running stingers, and people would be constantly targeting the helicopters because they know that the pilots are good. So then we get to a point where we don't have anyone running rocket launchers to shoot at ground tanks or APCs, and then we wind up with just a bunch of stingers. It's lock-on city, and it's not a good day for anyone. So in retrospect, it's not maybe the best idea. Right at first, it sounds fantastic, like flight certification, that, you know, it would benefit all parties, it would get the noobs out of the choppers, hopefully increase your usability of them. But it's also, I feel, very key to balancing the game, to have the noobs in the tanks, in the choppers, in the jets, in the whatever it is. If we don't have noobs, and we don't have, you know, just the average player, then we're losing a lot of the balancing that goes into it, because, you know, vehicles are balanced for the average community, which means that they are very, very powerful. So whenever someone gets really, really good with a chopper or really, really good with a jet, they can totally destroy everything, and at that point, like I said, it just becomes a flood of aircraft. The same thing could be brought up if you made people go through training for tanks. Then it would mean that a lot of the community would ignore it, or they'd be very good in tanks, and then you would have a bunch of tank elitists running around, and it would be all about the tanks. You know, it's the same sort of error that gets brought up regardless. I don't mean to throw your idea into the dirt or kick you in the face at all, but I think that at the end of the day, it would be a small disaster for balancing. But if DICE thinks that they want to try to implement this and they want to balance it out and it works, I'm all for it. A couple other things that needs to be addressed is that the Ronku assignments for EA on YouTube, there's a lot of YouTubers being accused of being a sellout and being paid to say good things about the game. Well, the Ronku assignments are just like the public assignments or the assignments that you create with your friends on Battlelog. You meet a certain set of criteria with your video, like you make it to fit a certain subject or a certain thing. You're not pressured at all, and if you make it and you apply for the assignment and you get verified or accepted by EA, then at that point you are making money for it without ever being tied to a contract or anything. I don't mean to sound like I'm defending other YouTubers or that I'm offending or attacking other YouTubers or other parties or just another general community. I'm just addressing it and bringing up the fact that it's not what it seems like on the outside. If you are running a YouTube channel and you have Battlefield content, you can apply for the Ronku assignments yourself and see how it is. I personally have put my name in the hat, so to speak. I'm going to see if I can get a Ronku assignment, because I think that that would be something very handy and very progressive for the channel, and certainly would wind up helping me out quite a bit, and I think it would also bring in a couple more viewers. I don't mean to sound like a beggar, but if you could please hit that like button, that would mean a whole bunch to me. I don't think people quite appreciate how much that helps with the search engine. I'm not going to press you to subscribe, but however, if you feel like you would like to, feel free to subscribe, and I hope to see you guys on the battlefield.